Hello, once again, Jeff Scott from Jeff Teaches Programming, and I've completed the first file in our calculator.java vanilla Java program, and that's the main.java file, and I've started. So while I was waiting for the last one to produce, I started this. So as you can see, this is calculator state.java. This file contains the calculator's brain. In other words, all of the actual math is included here. And as it says, it's completely separate from the GUI code. So since this class has no dependency on a GUI, you could use it anywhere with Swing, or even, for example, for the console. And I put a few notes in there. These are variables that are going to be used in here. Current is the number currently being typed or displayed. Previous is the number that was present when the operator was pressed. Operator is add, subtract, multiply, or divide, and wait for next, as it says, is a flag that is true immediately after you press an operator. These are my import statements, and now I'm ready to start typing. This is shorter than the last one. I'm hoping I can get this done in about 3 or 4 lectures and calling it a night. So first we're going to have our 4 instance fields, and they're the ones I mentioned up above. So private string current, and we'll set that equal to null. No, current is going to be equal. When we start, we want it to be equal to that. Private string previous, that'll be equal to null. Private string operator, and that'll be equal to null. And private boolean, wait for next, oh, I was lucky, and that'll be equal to false. In addition, we're going to make one more variable here, private final list of strings, and this is going to be our history, and that's going to be equal to a new array list. All right. Next, we're going to add our getters. Now, I have explained this thing before, but a getter is receiving something, as opposed to a setter, which sets something. All right? So, public string get current, and that's just going to return current. And I already explained what current was up above. Public string get previous, and that'll return previous, which again was explained up above. Public string get operator, which will return the operator. Public boolean is wait for next, which will return wait for next. Finally, we will have the list of the past calculations, so that'll be public list string, not listy, public list string get history, and that will return our history. All right. Next, we're going to have a reset. And what that's going to do is set the calculator back to a clean state. All right, that's if nothing is passed in, but we're going to overload this. So this can have a seed value so we can pre-populate the display. So the first one had nothing passed in. This one will have passed in a string. We'll call it seed value. A little defensive coding here. And that's wrong. That's right. Okay, basically that's just setting everything up for us. Okay. This will append a single-digit character to whatever we currently are displaying. So if there was nothing there previously, in other words, it was 0, the pre-populated 0, then we just want to add the digit. Otherwise, we're going to add it because we have a digit in there. Here we want to be able to handle the decimal point. No, we only want to add a decimal point if we don't have one in there already. All right, so if it doesn't already contain 1, we want to add it. Otherwise, we won't do anything there. All right. And we are at 941. We're doing great here. So this is going to be called whenever an operator is pressed. It should save the current value because that's the left-hand operator. Okay. Now this wait for next that we have in there, it prevents entering two operators in a row. So if you pressed 5 and then plus, you couldn't press plus again, or minus or whatever. That's why we call it a guard. All right, should have time to do at least one more here. This is called by the equals sign. All right, it's going to compute the pending operation and log it to the history. All right, next we want to build a log entry before we change the state. right, now that we've logged the before state, we have to update our working state to reflect the after. All right, I'm going to do a couple more here. I'm going to do because they're very short. And that'll be handle percent. And handle sign. Okay, don't have really too much to do yet. Hoping I can do this in one more lecture. Be back with that shortly.